Hello, I'm the Adventure Schmuck and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1997 TV show, Team Knight Rider. Now you're probably looking around my channel right now and saying, doesn't he mostly do travel videos? Why is he talking about a TV show? Well, part of my channel is also dedicated to retro toy collecting, and that's how I ended up looking at this particular show. You see, this particular show, even though it was called Team Knight Rider, wasn't very Knight Rider. And that's probably why it was so poorly received at the time. People didn't realize that Team Knight Rider was actually a live-action adaptation of the 1985 cartoon show Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command. Once you actually see it in those terms, the show suddenly became remarkably good and actually a really faithful adaptation of that particular cartoon, especially in tone and storytelling. So please join me and I will take a deep dive into the show and show you just how many things both shows shared. So Team Knight Rider was a 1997 TV show produced by Universal Studios. It was called Team Knight Rider, and I think that was to the detriment of the show, because when people watched it, they're like, what the hell is this? This is not really Knight Rider. And those diehard Knight Rider fans were right. The connections to the original Knight Rider show were pretty thin, although they did make some of them. For example, Michael Knight does appear in the last 2 minutes of the last episode of Team Knight Rider, and they work for Flag, which was the organization from the original show, and you see cameos from at least the AI for Kit, the sentient life form that was the Pontiac Trans Am on the original show. Those were basically where those connections stopped, though. So Team Knight Rider itself was about 10% Knight Rider and about 90% Mask. So now I'm going to talk about the 1985 cartoon show, Mask, and how it shared about 90% of its characters and vehicles with the Team Knight Rider TV show. So Mask was a cartoon show. It ran for about 75 episodes, and Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, with the command being spelled with a K to make it work. It was a cartoon show produced by Dick Entertainment. It's spelled D-I-C. What are you going to do? And it spawned an incredibly successful Kenner toy line, and the toys were probably the biggest part of Mask. I remember pretty much every kid in school when I was in middle school owning both Transformers and Mask toys, so it was a huge blockbuster toy line. I know they did really well. It spawned several generations, and the toys are memorable. Mask was one of the biggest toys of the 1980s. They didn't do Transformers numbers or G.I. Joe numbers, but they were right there. And actually, as we speak, Hasbro is in the process of turning that old Mask cartoon into a big budget major motion picture, and they have the director of the Fast and Furious attached to direct it. So let's start at the beginning with the characters. Every single Team Knight Rider character had a doppelganger in the Mask cartoon show that actually exhibited the exact same personality traits as seen in Team Knight Rider. Kyle Stewart is actually Matt Trakker, both of them being the respective leaders of their team. Jenny and Gloria are basically the same character. Hondo McClane and Duke De Palma are pretty much the same character. The only difference is their careers. Duke De Palma was an ex-cop, and Hondo McClane is a school teacher. And the Trek character on Team Knight Rider was basically a mashup of Bruce Sato and Alex Sector on Mask. Each car on Team Knight Rider had its own artificial intelligence, and you'll notice that the voice modulators were patterned after what the vehicles looked like on Mask during the mission briefs. You'll also notice that the cars in Team Knight Rider, the dashboards don't resemble Kit from the original Knight Rider show, but indeed look far closer to the dashboards and consoles inside of Mask vehicles. You'll also notice that the Team Knight Rider vehicles have doppelgangers in the Mask universe as well. Domino in Team Knight Rider is a red Ford Mustang. In Mask, Thunderhawk is a red Chevy Camaro. In Team Knight Rider, the Cat and Play-Doh motorcycles look identical to the Bullet motorcycle in Mask. The only difference is the paint job. In Team Knight Rider, Attack Beast is a black Ford F-150. In Mask, Firecracker is an orange Chevy Square Body. In Mask, Jackhammer was a black Ford Bronco. In Team Knight Rider, Dante is a silver Expedition. I know a lot of Knight Rider fans were kind of scratching their heads when they saw the Cat and Play-Doh motorcycle merge together to form the combo car. Well, I saw the exact same thing on Mask with Buzzard. Buzzard was a race car that actually split into multiple pieces. In Mask, the team would assemble to get its mission briefing around a round console. In Team Knight Rider, the team would assemble around a round console to get their mission briefing. On Mask, they used a comlink to communicate on missions, just like Michael Knight did on the original Knight Rider, as well as to all the operatives on Team Knight Rider. Team Knight Rider vehicles had rocket boosters mounted to the back of them for additional speed, and concealed weapon pods that would pop out of the side of the vehicles, just like the Mask toys and the Mask cartoon. The Team Knight Rider vehicles were even amphibious, just like the Mask vehicles. It's crazy to me. Team Knight Rider was a live-action version of Mask, and apparently I'm the only one who ever noticed in all this time. The only thing missing from Team Knight Rider that Mask had were the masks that the operatives would wear, and these masks would have individual features in them. For example, Matt Tracker would wear a helmet that had a feature called Spectrum, and Spectrum was like this great military intelligence tool that you could actually see through walls, and it was basically like thermograph and spy technology, all kinds of neat stuff, basically integrated into his helmet. And every helmet was different. Like the bad guys would have stiletto would fire like these little daggers, and that was basically the only thing that they couldn't do. If you actually think about the development of the Team Knight Rider TV show, I suspect the show was originally intended to be an official Mask TV show, but this was right around the time that Hasbro was acquiring Kenner Toys. So Kenner was all tied up in legal issues as the acquisition was moving forward. So the IP was most likely not available for licensing purposes during circa 1997. But I find it truly remarkable how many things flew over people's heads. FLAG, the Foundation for Law and Government, is a 4-letter acronym just like MASC, Mobile Armored Strike Command. All these things flew over people's heads in 1997. People just didn't get it. And if you were an 80s kid, you got it. And when you realized what you actually had with Team Knight Rider, it suddenly became friggin' awesome. You can go from that 1985 cartoon, watch a full episode of Mask, then jump into Team Knight Rider, and the universes feel completely connected. The storytelling is the same. The missions they go on are the same. Everything connects. The characters are doppelgangers. The vehicles are doppelgangers. They did everything they could with 1990 special effects to make the Mask TV show a reality in live action. Even little things like in Team Knight Rider, you're always seeing that canyon road and all these mountains, and you're like, why are they always in the mountains? And then you look at the Mask cartoon, and they're always in the mountains and those canyon roads. I mean, everything is there. So, in hindsight, I've become just an absolutely huge fan of Team Knight Rider because I got it. I was one of the few people who actually got it. I have quietly lurked on the Knight Rider forums for decades, and I'm always blown away by how relentless people are in bad-mouthing this particular show. They just don't understand what they were watching. Once you shift your mindset from the Knight Rider universe into the Mask universe, this show was really damn good. They've even got the comic relief and the tone from the original 1985 cartoon in here. The writing on this show was so damn good, but the majority of the audience didn't understand what the writers were actually crafting. I'm an absolutely huge Knight Rider fan. Grew up with the show, watched it from 1982 on, and I will say that I still prefer Knight Rider Season 1 and 2 to Team Knight Rider. But it's not like a yes or no choice. I can actually enjoy both shows a hell of a lot. I don't have to pick, one over the other. I really like watching both of them. And when you watch Team Knight Rider and the original Knight Rider, you realize how infinitely better these shows were compared to the absolute crap Hollywood is making today. And I also point out that the Mask cartoon show from 1985 has infinitely more charm in its old hand-drawn animation style compared to everything that is just the CGI Pixar ripoff crap that they make nowadays that all kind of fades together. One of the biggest complaints that I've seen about Team Knight Rider on the forums is the ridiculous explosions that would launch a Team Knight Rider character, 50 feet in the air, and there's no way that a person would survive. Duh, this was an over-the-top live-action cartoon. Those ridiculous action scenes totally make sense for the type of show that they were producing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the best episodes of Team Knight Rider. If you talk to the Knight Rider fans, the consensus among them was their favorite episode was Kro, K-R-O, abbreviated. And that was probably the most Knight Rider episode that they made. I've read on several websites that Edward Mulhare from the original show was supposed to appear in that particular episode. And if you've seen that episode, there is a character that looks and talks like a young Devin Miles. So it did seem like the producers are trying to connect the Knight Rider and the live-action Mask universes together. And they were starting to get there. As I mentioned, Michael Knight appears in the last episode of Team Knight Rider. Unfortunately, Edward Mulhare passed away a couple months before this show entered principal photography. But it was a great episode. Kro from Team Knight Rider mimicked the evil twin of Kit on Knight Rider, and the evil twin was known as Karr, K-A-R-R. Another episode that I thought was really good was Choctaw L9. That episode really demonstrates how close Dante was to a Mask vehicle because, the missile launcher opens up on the sides of the vehicles just like a Mask vehicle. And the plot of that episode was Kyle gets suspended as team leader of Team Knight Rider, and then they bring in this incompetent bureaucrat to basically sabotage the team. It's a great episode. Another really fun episode that they made was E2 Dante. And that was an episode where the Team Knight Rider vehicles all got computer viruses. And there's just this really hilarious scene where Dante gets infected and he wants to blow up a motorist for driving too slow. And it's just, the humor in that episode is just great because Dante starts talking like Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it's just so hilarious. One of the interesting things that happened about halfway through the show is they introduced a main nemesis known as Mobius. And Mobius was basically their version of Miles Mayhem from Mask. It's kind of weird to watch the show now because the big baddie is actually voiced by the actor who played Ducky on NCIS. So it's really kind of jarring now to have one of the kindest, good-natured actors like Ducky playing your big baddie. Another great episode on the show was Legion of Doom. That was the series finale. What's nice about that episode is you actually get to see Dante become amphibious, and again, showing another trait of the Mask vehicles in the show, and you actually see Ford Expedition out in the water, like operating as a boat. And it does also kind of help tie the show to the Knight Rider universe. In the Knight Rider 2000 TV movie, the big new feature of the Knight 4000 car was its ability to turn into a boat and be amphibious. Well, to wrap up this video, I just want to say that Team Knight Rider is really an acquired taste. It is absolutely amazing if you grew up with the Mask toys and the Mask cartoon and you're looking for Season 2 of Mask, because that's exactly what it is. It's not really a continuation of the Michael Knight storyline from the original Knight Rider show. I know that's what fans wanted. They wanted a Season 5 of the original show, and this is not that. So for all you Mask fanatics who love the toys, love the cartoon, well, guess what? They brought it back in the 90s. For the people I just described, I highly recommend Team Knight Rider. I think you'll absolutely love it as much as I do. Thanks for watching this episode of The Adventure Schmuck. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See everyone next week.